face.
Hey, ladies, and we're live.
Everybody,
Happy Friday!
happy Friday.
I am in a different location than I normally am.
Does nobody hear that? I mean, see that?
What?
So, ladies, welcome back to another show. Take him downstairs, please. I'm sorry.
Boomer wants to be on the show.
I know,
Teresa.
Boomer wants to be on the show.
Right.
Yeah, take him down. Sister Thomas, yes.
Boomer is like, well,
hey, okay.
go right ahead.
Right, like they're taking over my life. But anyway, it's so good to be back. We're talking about relationships today. It's going to be a great show. We're going to get started. And first, we want to thank and honor our producer extraordinaire, all things YLC, Mark.
We celebrate you.
Thank you.
And we do appreciate him and this platform that we're on. I do want to celebrate that our Spirit and Truth, which is our flagship, if I can say that, of our platform, has seen over 1 million views in the last 60 days.
Yeah,
that's phenomenal. And it's even more than that. It's like it was 1.3 million. There's our
First Lady.
Hey, First Lady.
Hey, First Lady.
Views for the months of July and August, and we're just in September with our first September service this past Sunday, and over 1.3 million views. And I don't even know what we're up to yet. Last night, I think. Since last night, we've had 10,000 that viewed our Bible study. So we're just off the charts.
Nobody
so
but
we
the Lord.
appreciate even being connected to this amazing platform and this amazing leader. Again, thank you, Elder Mark Moore Jr. and all your awesomeness for this opportunity. He is our not just our producer, but he's our sponsor for the show. So we want to
appreciate you, sir. We appreciate you.
And YLC. But if you would, I'm going to take out a minute to share. I would ask everybody to share. I see everybody coming in.
Yes.
I love that we have guys on the show regularly. That really helps me. And we're going to need you here tonight, James.
James is the regular.
So we can talk about relationships. Happy Friday. Yes, I do want you guys to shout out where you're from. I see Kimberly in North Carolina. I know it is wild. Yeah, Olivia, we're killing it. We're killing the game, if I can say that.
Hey, Valerie.
It's pretty amazing, and I appreciate it. But if you would just say where you're coming from or where you're watching in from, I'm going to tune in and put.
Hey, Ayana.
Thank you for sharing.
Your neck looks so skinny.
There's Donnell.
Does it?
Yeah.
You said my neck.
We have South Africa on. I missed you. What happened?
She said my neck looked skinny, so we took a break for a minute. Everybody could admire my neck.
All of that. Just for weight loss.
Thank you so much.
Jawlines and neck bones. You gotta show that clavicle bone. When you show your clavicle bone, you're like, oh.
Look, next time I'm gonna have an off-the-shoulder blouse.
Right. First Lady, did you hear that, First Lady? She said off-the-shoulder blouse. That's why they don't want us lose no weight. We out here with shoulders out.
We'll be fast, right?
Right.
No,
in Michigan.
Like, Lord, I promise I won't. I promise.
We're so glad. Miami, Florida's in the house.
Florida's in the house.
North Carolina, Chicago, my favorite. Thank you all so much for sharing. Yes, Alabama.
Y'all lost my phone. I can't share.
Clayton, North Carolina. I didn't know that's where you were, Olivia. Hey, Miss Ayana.
Awesome. Hey, Ayana.
And Florida. So we're
Florida. Hi, Florida people.
We have what we want to call our top. There's Thomas Cody.
Cody.
Monday
for you, sir.
We love you so much. You are a walking testimony, literally.
Thank you, Jesus.
You have our love, our prayers. We cannot wait until we're in your presence again to see you and love on you. I think all of us are in a position where we can't wait to hug on somebody because we haven't been able to do it in so long.
Listen.
But I do appreciate you, Thomas, for tuning in. And I definitely want to hear your voice, and you can lend your opinion and your view to relationships. When is enough enough? So we're going to first start with our top of the hour, our top 10 minutes of hot topics with Miss Joya Lowry. You can take it away.
Well, hello, everyone. Again, happy Friday. I'm so excited. This is thank God it's Friday. Lord Jesus, thank you.
Come on. Yes.
God, thank you. But so I know our show is about relationships, and our title is When is Enough Enough? But I want to know this. I feel like this is a question that we should be saying to America. America, when is enough enough with this president? moment. Have y'all saw the last headline?
Our relationship with him.
Like, seriously, we need to like break it off. He said, he's on CNN, right?
Can we?
Yeah, we can in
Can we
November.
get an
We
annulment?
can break up with him in November.
Can we get an annulment for this president?
Come on.
Jesus.
So I don't know if you guys saw the headline on CNN, and I read it. I was telling the ladies, I read it over and over again because I'm like, wait, I gotta be missing
This can't
something.
be right.
It said Trump
This can't be
lied
right.
about not lying. I'm like, what? So the latest is, and I don't know why I still get scared when I say the word lie. Like I feel like my mom gonna come in and like pop me. Sorry. Anyway, so the latest is Trump. He's telling a fib about him not really understanding COVID, right? He told them that he didn't know that COVID was going to be as severe as it was and different things like that. But it came out that in February, he actually knew that it was going to be bad. He actually knew that people, that younger adults could get it. He knew that it was worse than the flu. And he tried to make it seem as if he had no idea, and he tried to make it seem like he was the savior of the whole thing once, they started talking about how they were getting results and it was going down and different things like that. But I literally, when I read it, I was like, he has to get out of this place. He has to get out of here. Like, and I'm not a big politic person, but my thing is, my mindset is, if we can take him for 4 years, let's just see what Biden can do. That's how I feel. Like, it can't get no worse. Like, the worst is gonna wax worse and worse. But at this point, I'm just like, please, we gotta get him out of here. Can y'all believe that?
It's crazy. I can believe anything regarding him at this point because I stopped.
He gets away with so much.
At the unbelievable part, just at the beginning, just with him even coming into office. It was one thing on top of another. And so this is no wonder. But you know what's so crazy is people will still champion him like, yes, like that's like being an abusive relationship. But he treats us horrible because he loves us.
I feel like Trump is this, you don't love me, you love yourself. Like that's what Trump is.
Listen.
He is all about just protecting himself, and that's all. He
Well,
doesn't care about the United States.
But that's what abusers do, right?
That's what
they care about power and control. And I feel like that's all when you think about it, and Joya, you were talking about the admission that they have recorded, so he can't come back and say, I didn't say it. Right. He had 19 interviews that he didn't even tell his staff about. He was calling this dude with his personal cell phone.
Right.
And was like, did you hear? Did you hear they said it's worse?
Right.
And then would go out the next week and tell all of us it's just like the flu.
Just don't panic. That's what he said his whole thing was. He didn't want us to panic.
Yeah. And I saw somebody on TV whose dad passed away, and she was like, well, my dad didn't panic. He died.
Wow.
Now that's sad.
That's huge.
That's deep.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Joya, I love that spin you put on it. This is on the relationship tip for real. When is enough enough?
When is enough?
We
really do have the power to say enough is enough. Like we have to make sure that we're registered to vote. We got to make sure we're out voting and get him out of here. Like seriously, we don't have to continue in this relationship at all.
But you know what, too? I think it's really important for those folks who are watching or maybe who will watch. We're tribal. So the people who like Trump are going to keep liking Trump. The people who like Biden are going to keep liking Biden. We're here to warn all the people who've never dated Trump before.
Right.
He is not.
Right. He's abusive. I'll do it, girl. Don't do it, Miss Seeley. He ain't worth it.
He gonna cheat on you.
He gonna beat you.
He gonna
listen.
All these 4 years we had to fight.
All our lives had to fight. Too much. Right. You told Trump to beat me. Like that's what America is saying.
Listen, don't do it, sis. Don't.
If you think
Miss Seeley might need to do it. She might need to do it.
That's all bad.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
Get him out of here. And we need to just look at him and say, listen, it's not me, it's you.
Right. You can almost be like, it's not you, it's me. I can't take no more.
I can't take no more.
I can't take anymore. Like it's the craziest thing in the world. Like I read it and I just couldn't believe it. Like he lied, knew he lied, got mad at the reporter, and still, he's just like an abuser in a relationship, tries to turn somebody's words around, make you feel like, and make you feel like he's the victim when you're the victim. Like
he's manipulative. He's a chief manipulator.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, just it's dangerous. I know we're kind of laughing about it, right, and it's funny the way we're putting it. Yeah. But what he is doing and allowing is so dangerous. I mean, we're talking about lives.
Lives.
They said, and I don't remember the number, that so many thousands of people could have lived had he just been honest.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's scary.
That's scary.
That's very scary.
What's even funnier though is that I was watching some press conference he was doing, and he like really believes himself. He's like, I'm honorable, I'm an honest man. I'm like,
I think he believes if he rehearses it to people, then they'll believe it.
Yeah,
right. I think because he'll get on here like, we're doing great, the numbers are amazing, and it's like, no, they're not. But if you hear that and you're already kind of manipulated by him, you're like, well, he said that we're doing great.
Yeah,
no, we're not.
I mean, I know we're too young for Nixon, but if anybody who, if any of us are political buffs, Nixon, I am not a crook, right? Knowing he was the crookedest person.
Crookedest crook there was, that ever crook.
And so I think Donald Trump, like you all are saying, is just like the enemy, right?
He is.
If we look at it from the spiritual side, the more he tells you one thing, he's trying to get you to believe it. And that's how Trump is. If I say it, then it must be what, must be true.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Well, that's our hot topics for tonight, guys. Again, like we said, we're making light of it, but please make sure you're getting out there, you're getting registered to vote. And when it is time, please go out and vote. We need him out of here, guys. We need him out of here.
Please vote.
Back to you, Teresa.
All right, thank you for those hot topics. And it seems like probably all the way until we get to the election, it's going to be a hot topic because there's no telling what he's going to say every week. So we might have top of the hour with Trump. I don't know. But, we will segue into relationships, and I think that was perfect the way you said it. Like, when is enough enough? Mm-hmm. But even moving over to a more serious side of that, it's a serious relationship. And our relationships, even with not just our politicians and the leader of our country, but our interpersonal relationships, our relationships with our spouses. There have been so many things in the news lately, even with, highlighted relationships that have fallen again, or where someone has messed up. And because unfortunately they live that in the public eye, and everybody has an opinion about it. So that's why I really wanted to talk tonight. And I'm going to welcome everyone that's in the comments to please give us your insight on this. But I really believe relationships should be private, but because you're in a public, like, social media has changed the landscape of all relationships, and so you can't even really have a relationship. I remember my pastor, when I was young, he said that marriages stayed together because you had a 4-room house, had one car, everybody had to ride to church together, had to come home and be in each other's space. Now you live in a big mansion, you got a guest house, you got 3 and 4 cars, nobody rides to church together or anywhere. And so it's like so many things that have divided relationships that it brings that just like a wedge between, or the dissension in a relationship. So tonight I really want to talk, and I'll ask you ladies these questions, as well as our studio audience, but our social media audience. In your relationship, how much outside influence do you allow to come in? And I want to preface that by saying we know that there's safety in the multitude of counsel, and you can't get a multitude of counsel unless you talk to multiple people. But with that aspect, how much do you let in? How much do you go out to bring into your relationship to look for resolve?
I listen to everything through a filter. And with considering the context, or considering the source. Mm-hmm. So, you all know I've been married for a long time now, like it'll be 21 years in November.
That is a long time.
Jesus in your name.
Like over half your life.
I know it's a long time.
Wow.
And of course, one of the best pieces of advice that we received was to pay attention to who you're listening to, and because everybody's got an opinion and they're going to base it on their experiences or their parents' experiences.
Right.
And so I really had to learn how to filter. So I do like to hear from girlfriends. I do like to hear from people about certain topics, but when I really want advice, I go to people who have been doing it a while too, right?
Yeah.
Have been married longer and can give me lessons learned and stuff to kind of watch for. So I try to filter it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Dana?
That's I would say the same thing. It just depends on who's giving the advice and what advice they're giving. I remember, when I had stepchildren, one of the hardest things was not letting too many outside influences kind of disrupt our home, because we were trying to blend a family. And if you let too many people give their input, everybody else is controlling what happens in your house. And one of the things I told our family, I was like, we're the ones who live within these four walls. So we're the ones that we have to take care of. I know everybody's going to have their opinions, but we're the ones who have to learn how to deal with one another, adjust our emotions, adjust attitudes, get used to chores and all of those different things. So while I did not want them to tune everyone out, I tried to teach them to filter everything as well, like consider where it's coming from, but ultimately what happens here, we're the ones responsible for, the pleasantness.
Yeah. And so let me ask you a question regarding blended families, because it seems like, there are so many different groups with is countless amount of people in the world. You'll find people specifically that I'm in a biracial marriage with, this many boys and girls, and, I have this many kids, he has this many, and you'll find an exact family just like yours. So would you gravitate towards individuals who've had blended families and, they have advice for, this is how we incorporated our, habits, or this is the way we incorporated our family traditions at holiday? So would you be more inclined to have an ear to somebody that's been in your situation that can advise you, or maybe just somebody
I actually had to evaluate. I knew my husband had kids when we started dating, and I did have to make a pivotal decision, because I was like, I was a part of a blended family, and I remember thinking, do I want to go through the experiences that I had as a blended family? Because it was difficult. We had, my mom wasn't really prepared. She kind of had kids thrust on her. One day their mom just decided she didn't want to be a mom no more and left the kids with us. So, there we were. And I thought I could either use my history as a lesson to run, or use it as training. And I actually chose to use it as training. So I was like, okay, so I have an idea of how I felt as a child in a blended relationship. So I think it gave me a better perspective for trying to build relationships with the kids, and then also getting them to build relationships with one another. Because, stepkids, sibling relationships are difficult anyway, but, having, step siblings is another just added dimension for, communicating in a family and getting along and all of that.
I think that's a really good point. I was just going to say, I've got a really close girlfriend who she got married after Lawrence and me, but she had stepkids in her family, and I think they were teenagers when they got together, and then by the time they got married, they were older teenagers, and she had some real challenges. There was some real challenges because there was, their mother. It was just all of that was involved. And I was thoughtful about the wisdom that I was giving her, because even though I was married, I didn't know what it was like to be married with stepchildren. And whereas I was looking at the situation you need to tell him, this is how we're going to do it.
Right.
Silence, all of that. I tried to use wisdom in what I said to her, because that's her home. Like you said, they had to work out what was going on within. So hopefully people are using wisdom in what they're telling folks too.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
because it's really easy to say what you would do in a situation, but you don't necessarily know, what's ideal for someone else.
Right.
That's right.
And then I always hear guys say, you girls that are in a relationship taking advice from your single girlfriends. They ain't even got no man, and they're telling you. But I always think about Paul he advised married, and he wasn't like from our record saying that he had a wife, with him at all times, but there is conversation, Matisa and Dana, probably from your ministerial background, know whether or not Paul was truly married. But I would say
he
that
was.
God gave him insight to be able to,
and he gave wisdom. Like, he didn't just give a one-sided. He said, I would do this, but if you do, it wasn't like a one-sided thing. And I think sometimes that's where we get, and that's where it comes from, considering the source and making sure that they're giving you wise instructions and different things like that, because Paul didn't just stay and say, don't get married. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not married. Y'all shouldn't get married at all. He was like, don't get married. However, if you did this, and this. So I think for, the same with the ladies, is just that considering that source and making sure, like, filtering it, getting that, like, okay, where are they coming from? This is So
but my question is strategic in that now that we've all agreed that we would take counsel from somebody, or we would listen to somebody that has wisdom, certainly in bringing something. You can probably tell when people are messy or they're bringing you something and it's like, girl, what you should do. I remember years ago, maybe 20 plus years ago, a coworker came to work. She was upset and had a falling out with her husband. And my first thing was, you don't have to take that. You don't have to stay. And they still married today, 20 plus years later. Right. It was just like an argument. But I love when people say, well, I don't have kids, where I'm not in this situation where I'm not married. But if it were me, you'd say what you would do. But with us being open to wise counsel, open to, people giving us direction, maybe where we would say we've not experienced this before. When is enough? What if you're in a situation? I can go to Dana, I can go to Matisa, or even Joya, like in singleness with relationships. When is enough? After you've taken wise counsel from someone, and you really only go to people because you hit them up in the road, or, but maybe I don't know how to address this. This is something new. I'm not experienced. So let me ask somebody. But when do you get to a point where the relationship is not working? This is something I didn't anticipate as a stepmom, or whatever it is. What's the breaking point? Like, where is it a deal breaker in relationships?
Let me say that Dana, you probably have a lot to say. Let me just jump in really quickly and be real clear and real transparent with people. Sometimes you will say in your mind what you think is enough, but when you get in the situation, your benchmark moves. Yeah. Your benchmark, right? And I want to be really clear about that, because sometimes we can look at other people's lives. So the short answer is, it's different for each individual.
It depends on your threshold for pain.
What'd you say?
I think it depends on your threshold for pain. Like whatever your tolerance level is. And everyone's tolerance level is different.
But it's different by situation too. So again, in my 21 years, everything hasn't been perfect. And going into marriage, I was like, I wouldn't take this, I wouldn't take that. Yeah. But when you get into marriage, you realize that it's not about taking per se. When you think about marriage as a ministry, which is what I do, what I would have chosen to not go through and deal with, or what Lawrence would have not wanted to go through, because we understand that our marriage is bigger than us, then my threshold moved, because God said, I'm giving you grace in this. And when you get to the other side of it, you're going to be better. So I like that. So I just want to go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's so easy, and I've done it where I might look at a woman and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe you would take that. Sure. And I do think that there are times when you do have to say enough is enough, but I can't tell you when that is.
Sure.
Right.
You have to know for yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's something that applies to every relationship, though. It's not just exclusive to marriage, although I think when you make that covenant with someone, you try a little bit harder. But if we really think about it, that applies to all of our relationships. It applies to our friendships. It applies to our siblings. Like, there's some things that you're more willing to put up with your siblings because, hopefully your parents have groomed you all to love each other, have each other's back. I don't care what she does, that's your sister. I don't care what he does, that's your brother. Like, we're going to stick together no matter what. And so you have that covenant agreement that, if this was anybody else, I would
shut it down.
But because of the relationship, because the boundaries have been established, because this has been established between us, I'm going to take more. But then when it comes to the people that you love, like when the Bible says that love covers a multitude of sin, it's not that you don't recognize what the people are or what they do, but my love for you overlooks it. Not that I say it's okay and I give you a pass, but I still love you even though you have these, deficiencies or these faults or whatever. And then in my love for you, I either try to help you with it or we work around it or whatever. But because I love you, my threshold gets moved, like you said, where some people is like, okay, that's enough with you. We're not talking no more. But it all depends on the level of commitment and love and desire that you have to maintain relationship with that particular person.
That's great. And I think a lot of our people in the comments agree with that same thing. So Joy, I want you to respond, and then I'm going to redirect that same question just a little bit.
I agree with both of them. Go ahead and redirect.
So the other side of that is, how you see people in a relationship, and so they've pull together some tensile strength for what they go through, but then out of the lens of the very people that may have initially counseled you or gave you advice, or that you sought out counsel from them and they gave you great advice, when they come to you or they see that it looks to be abusive now, because we can all look at a relationship and be like, now how much more is she gonna take or he gonna take? Like, he did that again, or like she did it again, and then it becomes, you can see, I've had close friends who've been in physical abusive relationships, and they'll make excuses. Oh, I made them mad, or whatever it is, and it's just like they know my tensile strength is like, now he can grab me, but he can't sock me. And that sounds crazy, but it might be like, okay, we shove on each other, but he better not punch me or whatever it is. And I'm looking at it like, you let him grab you and shake you or whatever it is. And so you say, well, I think that's abuse, or that should be enough for you. So when is it where it crosses a line to where the same people that counseled you come to you now and say, I think you should reconsider, or maybe I see that you moved your benchmark? Because we'll always say, for me, I'm always like, if somebody ever hit me, it's gonna be 2 hits. He gonna hit me, and then he gonna hit the floor, because I'm gonna be arrested that night, and I'm there. That very well may not even go that way, and God forbid that you end up in an abusive relationship. But what happens when you keep moving your benchmark so much that your family or your closest confidants or the ones you entrust with counseling you tap you on the shoulder and be like, that's enough. Like, that's too much is too much. So when enough is enough for somebody else that has poured into you, when does it become enough to you? Or what will prevent you from even reconsidering where you are?
I think we have to define what we're talking about.
That's what
there are some things that are deal breakers.
Right.
Let me be clear.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna hit me and I'm gonna move my threshold.
Right.
That for me is a deal breaker.
It's coming back.
We're getting ready to. I ain't gonna say I'm gonna fight you back, but what I am gonna say is I'm not gonna be there for you to hit me a second time.
Right.
So for me, I do think, and I like that question, Teresa, we have to make sure that we know in and of ourselves what those things are that are deal breakers, that becomes, you've already crossed the boundary. When I was talking about enough is enough, I'm talking about, arguments or something else that doesn't cause physical harm or mental anguish or any of those kinds of things. And that's why it's important to have these conversations and think about this before you enter into covenant. Because marriage is not a certificate, it is covenant. And so I do agree, Teresa, I have absolutely gone to girlfriends, people that I know, and kind of whispered in their ear. Now you have to be careful with that too, because people are crazy. And they'll go back and say, Matissa said, I need to leave you. Yeah. And then he's coming to the church to get Matissa.
Right.
But I think it's
so let's categorize it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Let's put it in 3 different. We'll look at marriage, and we have people married here, so I'll lean on Matissa and Dana for that, and then we'll talk about just regular friendships, and then let's talk about business relationships as well.
Oh, okay.
So from the marriage perspective, I think we're all on the same platform that we don't believe in divorce. We wouldn't say that's something that we practice. Certainly there are deal breakers that would get you right to divorce court after your holy matrimony to the Lord. I do believe in my heart of hearts, and of course I've never been married, that marriage in holy matrimony, that's a covenant with God that the enemy doesn't want to see anything holy. So by the time you get married in holy matrimony, I think he tries to destroy relationships from the very beginning, or anything that's in covenant or unity with God. So I know that's I think it puts you in the enemy's line sight for target, to destroy you. So let's say, for all intents and purposes, we don't believe in divorce, but in a marriage, when is enough enough, and what does that look like? And I'll direct that to Matisse and Dana.
So I would say, again, there are grounds for divorce biblically, infidelity being chief among them. But what we don't go into it trying to get out of it. That's sure that when we're in covenant. So when is enough enough? I think you have to have wise counsel, as we were talking about before. I would absolutely have my pastor involved, right? And I would really suggest, when there are patterns, I think I saw somebody put this in the comments, there are red flags. Nothing just happens and then you're like surprised by it. Right? You're looking at it, and if you really look back, you can see things that have happened along the ride. So I would say, when you start seeing those red flags, if you do, get somebody that now is going to become your accountability person, get your pastor, and that way when you're having these conversations, it's not all of a sudden, but it's, these are the patterns that I've seen, and let them guide you through it. I will say this, there are people that I know of who were at that enough stage, and God turned that thing around, and now they have a beautiful marriage. So that's why I think it's hard to say there's not a one sort of stop solution, because God can do anything. So I would say, get an accountability partner, talk to your pastor.
That's good.
It's definitely important too to have counseling before marriage, during marriage, after marriage, all the time. Please get counseling. But like, one of the things that I've stopped doing is giving people relationship advice, because I ask more questions than give answers, because I don't want your decisions to come back on me.
Yes.
I want to give you as much information. I want to show you what a good relationship looks like. I want to show you what healthy communication looks like. I want to show you what a healthy sex life looks like. I want to show you what healthy parenting looks like. And then you decide if what you're doing aligns with what is healthy or beneficial or whatnot. Because I've found that I've had girlfriends who are in those knockdown, drag out fights, abusive relationships. I'm ready to leave him, right? So I'm at the curb trying to come help you escape or whatever. And then, as soon as I help you come stay at my house for a week or whatever, you're right back with him. Yep. So,
mad at
I don't want to be a part of, mad at me, because, and then I've sided with you, trying to empathize with you. Now what I've learned how to do is I'll empathize with you, but I'm going to ask you some questions. How do you feel about that? How's that working for you? Now, is that really the choice that you want to make, when you can do this or that? Because again, I can't be responsible for who you love or how they love you, or what you're willing to put up with in a relationship.
Okay, so with from the marriage perspective, and I appreciate that answer, because I do think I like that you said you no longer give relationship advice, but you can at least ask questions, because I know that your Kingdom University, of the Kingdom Court University, that has to be some guidelines that you put in place for people. But let's talk about it from the perspective of relationships going into marriage. If you're dating someone, like, when is enough enough? Like, based on our deal breakers, we know what that is. But how much do you take? How many times do you forgive somebody for violating one of your red flags? And I think that it's really hard sometimes to see a red flag if you're in the middle of, the relationship, because it's like, it's the whole love covers a multitude of faults, but we are also exercising wisdom. So in relationships before you get to marriage, and Joya, certainly you can respond as well. when is enough when somebody has crossed a boundary or violated a pact that you guys had, or just in like I think you in a relationship. A friend of mine told me once, you can't expect somebody to know what the rules are unless you tell them what they are. So you can be in a relationship and then be like, he did so and so, or she, she hurt my feelings in this respect. But if you've not told them like this, I don't like this, I do like this. But when you laid out the parameters of what it is to relate to me in a relationship, and this person violates that, and violate sounds so strong, but they're inconsistent with providing your love language. When do you pause?
This is what I would say. I think Dana said something so key. She said when she is helping people go through this, and that's a classic counseling move, because people have the answers within themselves, right? You're just trying to get them to their own answer.
About it.
But I really love what Dana said. She says, I give examples of healthy relationships.
That's
the reason that's key is because when you're talking to someone prior to marriage, then you look at what's healthy or what's not. So brand of toothpaste, and whether you like Pepsi or Diet Pepsi, who cares? What does it feed into a healthy relationship? And for me, those are the guiding questions that we should be asking, because the specifics look different for each person. So I'm not going to miss out on a great relationship because, we don't like some of the same things, or you didn't remember my birthday. Like, can we talk about that?
Now we're gonna have
Let me just tell you. Now, my husband remembers everything.
I was say we're gonna have a problem with the birthday.
I don't remember everything. I don't remember everything, but I love my husband dearly. But I can't remember his social security number. Like I don't remember that.
I think it's important for me. Mine is it's important to know within myself what that healthy relationship looks like as well, because I can't always base it off of somebody else's. Because then I'm starting to, go to a place like, oh, if someone says it's supposed to be Colgate, then in my mind, I'm like, it's supposed to be Colgate, and he's bringing me Scope. This is not right. You know what I mean? So like within myself, I gotta figure out what it is that I want, what it is in my head that looks what is healthy to me.
Sure.
And so once I get that, then I'm able to know like this is how I recognize a red flag, because I now know what I want, what I need, what's healthy, what's not healthy. So that's how I maneuver through a relationship and all right, this is too much. I can't do this anymore. But one of the main things for me, like, he got to remember my birthday. It's going to
tell me, get that birthday date right. You can forget my
If you don't get the birthday date right, go ahead and cancel Christmas. Literally.
Cancel the wedding.
Right. The wedding is over. Hey, you better get married on your birthday so you can remember that date. Just
But can I just say real quick, and then I'll stop. I think what Joya said is good too. Some people come from homes where they saw only bad relationships.
Right.
So they don't know what a healthy one looks like. So I do think that's why the courting stage, as I'm sure Dana can attest to in the work that she does, it's so important. It's not just about waiting to get to the wedding.
Right.
You're learning each other. You're learning what healthy looks like. And I think all that is so important.
You learning what you like.
You have to start asking the right questions. And then you have to pay attention to the answers. And like Teresa was saying, you have to tell people how to treat you. Yeah. And you have to give them time to get acclimated to the way that you want to be loved. Like there's ways that you give love. There's ways that you receive love. And the ways that you and your partner give and receive love are going to vary. So you have to give each other time to figure out, okay, she likes it when I do this. And if the relationship is valuable to you, you're going to try to, do what you can to give them the love the way that they want it. And there are some people though who are staunch in, you don't get it the way I give it to you or whatever, and that's a red flag. So you have to give people time to get acclimated to you. But if they say, I'm not going to love you the way you want to be loved, or they, either flat out, and some, because I was going to get to that, because I remember when Gabby was first dating before she married Noel, she was dating this guy, and I was like, babe, you can't be mad because he simply doesn't have the capacity for you. You wouldn't be mad at your 8-ounce cup for not being able to hold a gallon. It's an 8-ounce cup. It can only take 8 ounces. It can't do any more. Like, he is limited to the way that he can love you, and he simply cannot love you the way you want to be loved. So you can't be mad. Either you have to stop pouring the full gallon, or be satisfied to give him, 2 ounces at a time, or move on to somebody who has the capacity to love you the way you need to be loved.
That's good. And I'll add my 2 cents to that regarding just relationships, and dating. I think that, one, you have to know your value or know your self-worth. You have to, like, if somebody comes in and you really don't know who you are, you might take anything, because you will kind of don't know, like, I guess this is what a relationship's supposed to be. So I think it's very key that you know what your worth is and what it takes. Like the whole 5 love languages, and I thought it was just a novel idea when it came out, but I was like, it's really accurate, because if I don't tell you what my love language is, you're gonna be loving me hard the way that you want to be loved or need to be loved, and it's not touching what I need at all. So it's like, one, you have to know what it is that you want. I don't even know if everybody knows their 5 love languages, or what they truly, what theirs is, or their top 1 or 2. It took me a long time to figure out what mine were, because I think I like all of them, but
and because you really are, but
right. But it's like, you have to really know what it is that you want in order to recognize when you're not getting what it is that you need.
So true.
And so I'll say that we have like less than 15 minutes to go. I can't believe this whole conversation has gone this far. But let's shift towards just relationships on friendship levels, or just your platonic relationships. I know a lot of times we work with people. In HR, we always say you stay with a company or you leave a company because of the people you work with. You either like it, you like being around people, or you don't. You spend more time with people at work than you do with your families. But just from a relationship, it's not romantic at all. It's no love relationship, but just out of true friendship. When do you see that maybe this is enough, or maybe this is an impasse where we're not going in the same direction? How adversely impacted is a relationship like that for a friendship?
I think it can mean everything. I keep jumping in first, so somebody else can certainly see. It ain't like I've been talking all day or nothing, but I absolutely have.
That's all.
I'm sorry.
Like to hear your voice.
But I was going to say, I think that's important for friendships. I mean, I've had friendships that I've had for years and years and years and years. And I so appreciate everything I've learned from them. I've gained so much. I have nothing but, great memories. But because of a shift in my own life, and I felt like the relationship for me became negative, I had to make a hard decision to redefine it. And I didn't cut the relationship off, but for me, within myself, I was like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
And I didn't call this girlfriend and say, hey, enough is enough. We're not, because she wouldn't have known my thought processing and God processing me. Right. And it would have felt very surface. And so what I just decided to do was I just kind of weaned myself from it a little bit, called a little bit less. She got busy with her thing. I got busy with mine. But what became great about it is we still talk. We still love each other deeply. We just don't have the same relationship that we did before.
Yeah.
And I grieved a little bit from that, to be honest.
I think people grieve bad relationships. You can grieve an abusive relationship because you might just miss the companionship.
Sure.
But I think that you do grieve things. I remember breaking up with somebody. I was crying while I was breaking up with him because I knew he wasn't any good for me, but I didn't want to let him go. And so I grieved that, but it was like I knew something better for me was on the other side. So my perspective on that, and then of course we get to Dana and Joya. For me, I feel that when a relationship in a friendship capacity becomes either toxic, or I really believe that there's power of life and death in your tongue. And so when somebody is no longer pouring good into you, not that you need everybody to do that, but if you're close to me, you're within my, private space, then I think that should be a ground where you're being fertilized, where it's a place where you're fortified. You know what I mean? It's like I can't go in my corner from the world and then the coaches beat me up in the boxing corner. Like I need to go here and get refreshed.
Right.
So when that's no longer pouring into or making it, there's some relationships you feel solace in them. It's just like, oh, this is like my safe haven, or it's a safety net. And I feel like when that safety net is gone, or if you even start seeing rips in, it's like, oh, I'm about to fall through this mud. Then I feel like, I love what you said, Dr. Matisa. You change the dynamics of it. Like I have friends that I grew up with that I would say right now, oh my God, it was my best girlfriend all the way through high school and all the way through college. Then she got married. We moved to separate, states. And when we see each other, we pick right back up. But she's not really my best girlfriend anymore because we've just not been in close proximity. But we changed the dynamics of what the relationship looked like, and we still maintain it. You know what I mean? So I think from the perspective of when it's no longer healthy, when it's some toxicity in it, if that's the right pronunciation of that word, then I think that's a point where you say enough is enough.
For me, I think, I've always grown up, even in childhood friendships and even in adult friendships, we've always had a conversation. So I was different than you, Dr. Matisa. Like if something was going on, it would be a conversation. I think enough is enough. With what you said, Teresa, once it's just negative, because some friendships, I'm not coming for you to pour into me. I just need to just take off my mask and be myself, right? You because we have so many responsibilities in the world and people are looking at us and pulling on us and different things like that. There are some friendships that I just don't want to be that person. I don't want to be Mrs. Joya. I don't want to be, director. I just want to be Joya. Sometimes I just want to be Joe. And so like those relationships, some relationships, I need that type of thing. But when enough is enough, only for me, it's only when it's negative. Like once it becomes I don't feel like I can be myself and I was before, then I'm like, okay, this dynamic needs to change and we keep it moving. Like, cause we all have different type of, like I've had friends that I knew from nursing school that we're not as close as anymore, but it's just shifted, it just shifted. And I think that's what we have to remember in our mind, that there's seasons, there's, there is, what is it, like a tree, there's branches, there's leaves,
and a lifetime.
So my enough is enough is the negativity. Once I feel like it's just too negative and I feel drained, then I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's good to see those drained ones. Like you can be on the phone with somebody when you get off here, just like,
I can't.
Oh my God, I'm so happy.
Right. So why do I feel like I want to jump right now?
Right. What is that?
And let me just be clear. I did talk to my girlfriend, so I didn't just drop off the scene.
Yeah, right.
But I didn't call her and say, "Guess we're not going to spend as much time together." We talked about the issues, and it just happened naturally. And really, like you said, anything that is draining or toxic, as soon as you cut it off or you don't allow it to fester anymore, you start to heal in that area. And so for me, I feel like when you feel better after this is it. Thank you, Lord. When you feel better after the relationship and you feel you got to download and you feel like you're growing and you're better, that's when you did the right thing. Now, there have also been relationships where after that, God showed me, no, you got out too soon. It was enough for you, but it wasn't enough for me.
Yeah. Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
I want to say this. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he was saying, like, how do you stop loving someone that you're not supposed to be with or be in relationship with or whatever? And God never intended for us to stop loving one another. Like the disruption in love it comes about as a result of our sin problem. So to your point, Matisa, I don't think it's that you stop loving people, but you do change your responses to them. So perhaps in one, season of your life together, you would have responded to them in this way, but because of a different season of your life with them, you don't respond to them in the same way. Not saying that you don't still love them, because again, I don't think we're ever supposed to stop loving people. And that's one of the challenges of relationships is, how do I continue loving someone who is mean, crazy, toxic, whatever? You know, it's one of the things that I actually wrote in my book, Who Could Ever Love a Porcupine? Because sometimes people will put up defense mechanisms to keep you away because they're hurt and they're hiding something. And if you're not the person who is patient enough to unpack some of those things, how much longer would that person then be in pain, still hurting and still being toxic to other people? As opposed to, you know, he tells us that we're supposed to be about the ministry of reconciliation, right?
Right.
So that's part of, you know, kind of discerning, you know, what is it about this relationship that has to change? What is it? How can I love this person past, you know, some of the issues that they have or whatever? So I'm not a fan. I know we live in a cutoff culture where as soon as somebody hurts you or, you know, it's toxic or whatever, but like, if Jesus did that to us, we wouldn't have a savior.
Well, it goes to how you forgive people 70 times 7.
That's right. That's right.
That's not my word. That's the word. But how many times do we exercise, I'm going to forgive you 70 times 7? Like it goes to that. But, and I would think it goes just a little bit beyond, hey, Deacon Jarrett. I think it goes a little bit beyond that, you know, you're just cutting people off and failing to love people, like from our biblical responsibility of being a Christian to always love everyone. But it could be that that person is not in your inner circle. Like, you don't have to not be friends. You can certainly be friendly. Bible says you want friends, you must first show yourself friendly. You can be friendly towards someone, but then I think they cut off their own access to you as things change, or you cut off your access. They have the access they have to you if it's no longer a positive experience.
And as believers, we have to understand that all things work together. You know what I mean? And so
at the end of the day,
all things gonna work together. So if it's a relationship that you guys were close, if a relationship that you know, it's just whatever it is, it has to cease to continue the same type of dynamic that you had. It's still going to work together for both of the goods, especially if you're a believer.
Yeah,
and so I think the problem is just make sure that
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say this. I don't think all friends are created equal.
God, no.
I agree completely.
So when I think about my friendships, I have an array of friendships.
Yes.
You know, like even Teresa was referencing inner circle versus others. Like all of my relationships are different. I get things from different people. And there are some relationships I absolutely know I am there to make that person better and help them.
Right.
I know that because they're not really helping me. Right. And maybe helping me in some ways. Y'all know what I'm saying. But then there are friends that, like Joya was talking about, I can just let my hair down and just, you know, be myself. I don't have to be on edge or on guard. And so I think when I can have discernment and kind of see what those friendships are supposed to be like, I think that helps, because sometimes we have unrealistic and unmanaged expectations of people.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not who God called them to be in your life or who you're supposed to be in their life.
That's true.
Right.
That's good.
I love it. I love all those answers. And I think that it's just as varied as all of everyone's personality. Like even for the 4 dynamics of the 4 of us on this screen, our relationships, they look differently than they do for each and every individual person. And it's almost like in business, being a manager, you have to know how to manage every individual person. You can't manage the entire team the exact same way. You have to do that. Like the people that can't take it, they're going to fall off. The people that need more, they're going to fall off. And so it's like you have to really be able to be pliable in how you relate to individuals, because some people may need a little more, some people may need a little less. And so like Matisa, it's key what you said about sometimes you're in somebody's life because you know it's like an assignment essentially. Like I know, because it's so weird. Have you?
What is it like the Timothy? What is it? What's this tier? You know, the Paul. You gotta have a Paul in your life. Have a.
I need a Paul and I need a Peter.
Paul, Peter.
Right, you need both. But
you got.
almost like you really want to know, like for the different places that people are in your life, like, okay, this is how I relate with this person. This is how I relate with someone else. But you're not going to allow people in your private circle that it's not beneficial for both. Now, of course, we're all believers and we all believe everything works together for the good. But there are some people that come in your life and they use and abuse you. There are some people, and it really bothers me to see people take advantage of people, because sometimes people be your friend as long as they need you and you're doing something for them. And if you needed that same reciprocal treatment, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And so for those, it's just like, just be careful that you're not pouring out more than what you're getting back. And maybe it's not that one person that brings you that direct, whatever it is, back, and you get it from another source. But I think that they should all be healthy enough to say that this is a healthy interaction, or it's I'm not leaving this person wounded, or they're not leaving me and I'm worse off than I was. Some people you call and it's just like, I'm as heavy as you were when you called me.
Right.
So I think that it should be beneficial from a perspective that the friendship is blossoming, or it's
That's her? Okay, I was like, is it me? I was like, gosh, my phone.
Teresa, you froze for a minute.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was my phone. I was like, Batista was right.
Well, I know. So it's 8:00 already. We've been here now. We did start a few minutes late, but I do want to address this one last thing before we go, and it's relative to business relationships. Like, when is enough enough? I think it's probably the most clear-cut relationship.
That's the easiest one for me.
There are parameters, but like we should have in marriage and friendships as well. But when you stop meeting the expectations of the contract, then the business has to be dissolved. And
but Teresa, do you ever mix business with friendship? Because that to me is where the lines blur.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part.
Let me tell you this. If I could fire folks and just maintain the friendship part, or just stay friends and not do any business whatsoever, I'd make some decisions this week. But it's hard. Once you cross that over, business and friendship,
yeah, it's hard.
I think it's harder to differentiate. You hurt my feelings as my friend over
your boss.
This is my
yes.
Right.
I had a business relationship, lived with the person, and they were my pastor.
Ooh. Oh no.
You can't be mad at your pastor.
Talking about all my eggs on a basket.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That was a lot.
Look. How do you even manage that? Because it's almost like PKs with your pastor is your dad. And it's just like, you can't be mad at your mom.
You gotta it.
Like, Dad, can you tell my pastor?
Right.
Or that needs to be a lesson learned. Never again.
I don't like my daddy, pastor. That's learned.
Right. That's hilarious.
But Joya, that needs to be a lesson learned. Some relationships are a never again.
Yes.
There are some never again relationships.
Yes. But I will say the relationship is great now.
Once you uncoupled.
Once I
consciously uncouple.
Yes. God.
But that living together, and that's a lot.
God today.
Woo.
God, I thank you. I tell you, all these work together.
Wow. That's so crazy. Well, I know we have another.
We only have 3 minutes, but I want to say this, and this is a long thing, and we can probably just take it on the other thing, on the other end. You were saying when is enough is enough, and one of the things that I wanted everyone to understand, and I'm pretty sure that our audience know this as well, but you touched on it a little bit, Dr. Matisa, about the violence. That's like a red flag that you shouldn't, like, don't keep forgiving that person. Did you all see I don't think he was a pastor, but then he went somewhere else and killed
shot his wife?
Killed his wife.
No, I didn't see that.
He shot her 7 times outside of her job, which was a bank.
And before this happened, her brother went to the house to like confront him and get her out the house. And in the video, you hear her like, "Oh, don't call the police. Oh, don't." Like,
how
those red flags. That's a red flag. That's a real life stop. Nobody didn't have to wave it. And so, like,
and you'd be surprised at how many women, take that
around and everything
as love. They take that possessiveness, that jealousy, that they see
Control.
that as a form of love. I mean, it's almost like their love language.
Absolutely. Well, and a lot of times it's because they've seen it, right? That's part of their life experience. It takes a woman about 5 times on average to leave a relationship for good. And in between all of that, there's beating, more abuse, etc. And I would just say really quickly, for anybody who is giving advice or talking to a woman in that situation, please be thoughtful and careful and research the best way to talk to them. You cannot and I'm not saying her brother did this. I don't know any of these facts, but you cannot just tell the woman to leave all the time.
Yeah.
Please be thoughtful about that, because you could be putting her in danger. So get resources that you can point her to, people who know.
But he said if, because the brother would call him fake, he said, I'll be fake if I don't kill your sister. He told them, yes.
That's so crazy. How long have they been married?
Now that I don't know. I honestly don't know that whole, I don't know their whole story and dynamic or anything like that. But those are like, when he said that and she still was like, don't call the police. And I'm like, Lord, this lady is not alive anymore.
Right.
Jesus.
Like her.
I saw a question. We're getting ready to dismiss because we have to wrap up, and I don't want Jacquia Jackson to think I'm ignoring your question. But she's asked, I gotta squeeze this in. If y'all can sneak this in, how would y'all handle the Pastor John Gray situation? I leave that in the hands of the Lord, because he is. I'm like, who was it? The kids in the Bible were talking about Isaac when the she bear came out the woods to eat him. It's like you can't talk about the prophet. So
I said, go up, bald head, go up, and then the bear came out.
I don't want the she bear to come eat me out the woods, but what I think that it's really, is that me frozen or is Joya gone?
No, you're not frozen.
Okay. Oh, we lost Joya. Okay, I think that regarding that, it's unfortunate that it's public, because it's on the public platform. So what is your response about it? I don't discuss my personal opinion about real subject matters in public formats like this one, but I think that it's a thing where you just have to pray for where those limits are. You pray for them, if for her, you pray for him. Like, we serve a just God who reigns on the just as well as the unjust. And I think the best way to respond to that is, it's just like what we talked about all night. You don't know what somebody's tensile strength is. You don't know what people, if they move their benchmark of this is how much I can take, you don't know where they're getting their safety and their multitude of counsel. But if God, affords individuals forgiveness, I don't know that we color it any kind of way. I know for me, I have my personal response about it, but I just, because of his position and honoring the position he's in, like we honor our number 45 because of where he resides, we just honor that. But all I can say is we pray. That's all I need. Now, somebody said, how many scandals can you get involved in? Well, hey, we're gonna pray for both. Like, yes, Minister Bosby, we'll pray for both him and her, because I believe, and I appreciate you, Jacquia, for saying that. We got to keep them lifted in prayer for real, because the enemy would come to destroy anything that's holy. And we know that holy matrimony is something the devil would shut down. And so let's just pray for them as leaders in their own right. Amen.
Amen.
So we lost Joya, but I'm sure she's coming back in some capacity.
She said her phone died, so.
Oh, okay. Well, we know that if Joya gets a new battery, then we can have
all things
new. When she watches it in. No, but if we really seriously consider our relationships, whether it be marriage, dating, business, friendship, there are things that we have to make sure are always healthy. And then I really believe that we can move forward and have all things new. I think Dana wants us to say it slower, like all things new. We're gonna practice off screen. All right. I love you guys.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for engaging.